Hi everyone, I want to show you how I edit this picture and enhance the color scheme. So this is my final product, and before I start, I want to share with you my workflow, which is a summary of what I'm going to do. So first of all, I will do some basic editings in Lightroom, such as cropping the picture, adjusting the exposure, increase the contrast, drop the highlights, increase the shadow, and I will also edit individual colors in the HSL panel. Also in Lightroom, I will use a select subject mask just to edit the exposure on the subject. I will also add 2 linear gradient masks to enhance her hair light. And then I'll export the image to Photoshop. In Photoshop, I'll mainly use new adjustment layers to do the following stuff. So the first thing that I'm gonna do in Photoshop is to change her lips color. And then I will brighten up her eyes, enhance the color of her shirt, and add a mask to change the mood of the picture. And finally, I will review my image by checking out the before and after and go back and forth to each layer to see what I can do to make it even better. For instance, I might go back to the lips color layer to saturate the red color a little bit more. Or I might think the green color behind her should be a little bit more muted or saturated. And then I will add a new adjustment layer to change that. And finally, I will export the picture back to Lightroom and do some fine retouches, such as adding a vignette. The reason why I want to share with you how I edit this picture is that I think the new adjustment layer tool in Photoshop is very awesome. Knowing how to do it and do it fast will enable you to make the colors of your image pop. And because you can edit individual elements in a picture by changing its own saturation, contrast, exposure, and etc., it will help you to enhance the color scheme or even color grade your pictures effortlessly. And let's get started. So first of all, I'll do some basic editings in Lightroom. Let me crop the picture first. Let me crop it like this. Okay, then I'll adjust the exposure, contrast, drop the highlights, increase the shadows, and play around with the whites and the black sliders. Increase the vibrance. And I will grab a mask, select the subject, and just increase the exposure of the subject by a little bit. And also I will drop the highlights, increase the shadows like this. And I will also create a linear gradient mask and to enhance her hair as if there is some late afternoon sunlight coming from the top. Right. Okay. And I'll create another linear gradient mask. Okay, I'm gonna click done. Right. And I'll go down to the HSL/color panel and increase the luminance of orange. So orange is her skin color. So you can see how her face is being brightened up, and also increase the luminance of red as well as blue. Let me also increase the luminance of green like this. Now I go to the saturation panel, okay? And I want to increase the saturation of blue and green. So normally in my pictures, I usually mute the green by desaturating it by a tiny little bit. But here, I feel like the green looks better. I mean, the whole picture looks better if I saturate the green a little bit. I'm gonna increase the saturation of orange by a tiny little bit, like this. Okay, so this is the before and this is the after. Now I'm gonna do a few more steps in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, I will change the color of her lipsticks and also brighten up her eyes a little bit. Okay, right click on the image, select Edit in Photoshop. Now, here in Photoshop. So mainly I will perform my actions using the new adjustment layers. So let me just begin by adding a new adjustment layer and select Vibrance. I want to increase the vibrance of the whole image by plus 20. All right, and next, I'm gonna change her lip color. Okay, grab another adjustment layer, select Selective Color. Before I make the changes, okay, let me just make the changes, see? Under Selective Color, you can see that I can play around with a whole bunch of colors. And I'm gonna select red. And under red, I can change the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black in the red color section. Now, let me show you what's gonna change. So if I play around with the cyan slider, you can see that the color of the overall image changes, right? However, I just want the changes to be applied to her lips. So what I'm gonna do, okay, let me undo all the steps by clicking this icon, the return icon. Okay, I want the changes to affect her lips only. So what I need to do is to turn that white layer mask to black by pressing down Command I. Now it becomes black. And then I will grab a white brush. Grabbing a white brush means you want the foreground color to be white. And because my layer mask is black, I need the foreground color to be white. If your foreground color is not white, press down the X key on your keyboard. It will allow you to toggle between black and white foreground color and background color. And if your foreground and background colors are not black or white, you can press down the D key on your keyboard to change it. Let's say my foreground color is now gray, okay? So when I press down the D key, it will change to white again. I'm gonna use the white brush and paint on her lips. And then when I apply the changes, I can see them immediately. Okay, red. And it will only affect her lips, but not other parts of the photo. Okay. Let me see the before and after. Now, I can turn off the effect of this layer by clicking on the eye icon right here. Now I'm gonna make the layer invisible. Now, before and after. All right. Isn't it fun that you do not need to buy another lipsticks for changing the lip color? You can just play around with the selective color and make the changes as you wish. Okay, this is my lips color. Okay, I'm gonna put this lip color under a group called lips. What I'm gonna do is to press down Command G, so a new group is created. I'm gonna double click on group 1, the word, and then give it a meaningful name, okay? I'll name it as lips, okay? And when I press this arrow here, now this is to expand and this is to collapse. Okay, now let me just collapse it. Okay, next I'm gonna brighten up her eyes. So I make sure I have collapsed the layers under the group lips, and I'm gonna add another new adjustment layers, and this time I'll select curves. I'm gonna pull up the exposure curve. You can see that the entire image becomes brighter, but I only want the changes to be applied to her eyes. So I'm gonna convert that white layer mask to black by pressing down Control or Command I. Grab a white brush and just brush on her eyes. Okay, well, the change is too drastic, so I'm gonna turn down the opacity of that layer 100% and bring it down to, I think, 40%. Okay, and I think the change on the eye whites is too strong, so I need to undo these parts. So I would grab a black brush and just brush on the eye whites to undo. Let me see the before and after by turning this layer off. Before and after. Okay, make it brighter. Before and after. Now I want to apply subtle changes to the eye whites. So now let me turn my brush to white and change the opacity to 11 or somewhere around 10 and just brush on the eye whites like this. Okay, I'm gonna put this layer under a group called Eye. Okay, Command G to group and double click group 1 and rename it to Eyes. Like this, and let me collapse the group. Now, so far we have applied the changes to the overall vibrance of the image, the lips and the eyes. And let's see the before and after of everything. Now, that was before everything. This is after I increase the vibrance of the image. And this is the lips. And this is the eyes. Okay, beautiful. Now, I'm gonna further increase the saturation of her shirt. So grab a new adjustment layer, go to Hue and Saturation, select the blue color, increase the saturation. All right, and then turn that layer mask to black. Grab a white brush and change my opacity of the brush to 100% and brush on the shirt. Yeah, like this. Okay, I'm gonna put this layer under a group called Outfit. Select this layer, press down Command G, and then rename this group as Outfit. Okay. Now, I'm gonna add a filter to change the overall look of the image. So I'm gonna add a new adjustment layer, and this time select Color Lookup. Okay. And you can see that here I have a bunch of different options. And when I select this, say edgy amber, the image is going to be like this, but of course this is not acceptable. What you need to do is to turn down the opacity of that layer down to 15%. And let's see the before and after. And I do not like this filter. Okay, let me select another one. Let's do crisp warm, like this. Before and after. It looks good to me, but I kind of want this photo to look a bit more like a film picture. Okay, let's try film stock. Okay, that looks good to me. What about this one? Okay, I think I still prefer film stocks like this. Okay, before and after, right? Okay. Now the beauty of using the new adjustment layer is that you can always go back to these groups and make the changes. Say for instance, I want to brighten up the eyes a little bit more. Okay, this is just an example. I think the eyes are bright enough, but let me show you what you can do if you want to make some changes to the eyes. Okay, so you just have to expand the group, go to that layer that increases the exposure of the eye, and then click on this icon. Now I'm not clicking on the black layer mask, not clicking on the word curves. I'm clicking on this icon. Okay, now you can see that when I pull this curve up, her eyes are going to be even brighter. When I make it down, it's going to be darker. Okay, all right, let's just do this. Okay, cool. And what if I want to change another color to her lips? All I need to do is to expand the lips layer and then select Selective Color and then change the sliders and play around with it. Just like this. Okay, super easy. All right. Okay, next, I'm gonna put all these layers and groups under a big group called Editing. So I'm gonna select the top layer, hold down the Shift key, and select this layer just on top of background. Okay, and then I'm gonna press down Command G. So it's gonna put all the layers and subgroups into this big group. I'm gonna name it Editing. Okay, let's see the before and after of everything we've done in Photoshop. That was before and after. Okay, cool. Let me see. I think I would want to add another layer called Level to the image. Okay. Okay, just to make the colors pop more. before and after. Yeah. Like this, okay? And I can always add another color lookup, and this time let me try something else. I love to play around with color lookup. Late sunset, okay, bring down the opacity. Now if I want to change the filter, I can always like do it again. Let's do crisp warm. And this time I only want the changes to be applied to the background, which is the green. So I'm gonna turn this white layer mask to black by pressing down Command I, grab a white brush, opacity 100%, and brush on the background, which is the green. Yeah, like this. Okay, and if I've changed my mind, say I do not want crisp warm, okay, what should I do? So I click on this icon and just reselect my filter option. Let's try a horror blue. Okay, it's gonna look like this. All right, that is quite interesting. What if I bring down the opacity of that layer? That looks cool, okay, to me, all right? Okay, let me just collapse all the layers and see a before and after. Before and after. Now, I'm good to go. I'm gonna save this image and export it back to Lightroom and do some final retouching. Command S to save and go back to Lightroom. Now here in Lightroom, that was the before, and this is the after. In Lightroom, I'm going to increase the contrast, just some basic and final retouching. Increase the highlights, shadows, and also use the subject layer mask just to increase the exposure by a tiny little bit, and also the saturation. All right, let me see if I should add vignette. Okay, this is adding vignette and this is not. Maybe just a tiny little bit like this. Okay, cool. So this is my final image. Alrighty then, what do you think? Do you like the tutorial? If you do, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. So, using new adjustment layers in Photoshop might seem a little bit intimidating for beginners, and I did, honestly. However, if you learn it in the right way and get plenty of practice, I promise you're gonna master this skill and color grade your pictures effortlessly. If you want to check out how I edit my pictures and color grade them, please check out my online class, Color Grading. The link is in the description. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye-bye. We're PhotoSprout's photography workshop in San Francisco. Equipment is provided for beginners so that they do not need to buy a camera to attend a photography class.